Hi, I'm Jimmy Aluria here at 3A Automotive and Diesel Repair. We get a lot of questions about oil changes and basic maintenance of a vehicle. So today I'm going to answer some of the most common questions that we get to help you better understand how to keep your engine protected and running smoothly. How often should I really change my oil? You should change your oil based on the manufacturer's recommendations or sooner. And what I say by or sooner is that depending on what you use the vehicle for, sometimes the manufacturers are extending these oil changes 10 or 12,000 miles. To me, that's a long time in between oil changes. And if you're in Arizona, in Phoenix, you're in a very hot climate most of the year, as well as a very dusty climate. So we recommend every 7 to 10,000 miles on the high end and 3 to 5 on an older vehicle. And the reason is because every 3 to 5,000 miles, that is a lot of time on a vehicle. But the main point is that do not go over the manufacturer's recommendations. Another thing that we still do today here at 3A Automotive is we put a little sticker up in the top left side of the windshield so that there's a reminder there of what mileage you need to come back for that oil change. What are the most common signs that my car needs an oil change? The most common signs that your car needs an oil change on a modern vehicle is that the car's telling you it needs an oil change. The computer systems are very sophisticated, and for many years cars have had an ability to count the miles between oil changes if the technician resets the oil change light when they do the oil change. The other sign is that you have a sticker up in the windshield and the shop that did the oil change is putting a little reminder sticker up there so that you can see the mileage on there. There's usually not any other signs. Some people say that their car feels faster or feels like it has a little more pep after it gets an oil change. But typically, if you've gone that far, you've gone too far. So use the indicator lights in the car, use the oil change reminder sticker in the car to tell you when it's time for an oil change. Now here at 3A Automotive, one of the things that we do is we also send you a reminder. We have our computer system will remind you, and then we'll also give you a call when that oil change might be due. So your repair shop can just set that next reminder so that you don't forget. What happens if I wait too long between oil changes? If you wait too long between oil changes, that is not something that you may see the ramifications of right away. So if you go over, let's say 1,000 miles on your oil change one time, that's not the end of the world. You're not gonna ruin your engine because you went over 1,000 miles one time. But going over 1,000 miles throughout the life of the vehicle regularly, that's probably gonna put a little more wear and tear on the engine than needed to be. So one time going over a little bit probably isn't gonna hurt anything. But if that's the regular habit, maybe going 10,000 miles over the oil change or waiting way too long, that is gonna cost you the longevity of that vehicle because over time it's going to get more and more wear and tear because of that dirty oil and that dirty filter in the system. Now, another thing to think about in waiting too long for your oil change is if you have an extended warranty, a lot of times that could void the warranty. So you need to read the fine print on your extended warranty to make sure that if you go over on an oil change, it doesn't void out anything with your engine on that warranty. A lot of those have very fine print that if you go 10 miles over on an oil change, that they're going to avoid protecting you with the insurance if there's any damage to that engine. So you need to make sure that you keep really good records of that stuff if you have an extended warranty, and make sure that you don't go over if they're going to limit coverage based on going past due on your oil change. How do I know which type of oil my vehicle needs? The way you know what type of oil your vehicle needs usually is in the owner's manual, or it's under the hood by the engine oil cap. Someplace there, they'll have the type of oil, the oil cap on the engine, or it'll be in the owner's manual. Another place you can find it is sometimes underneath the hood or in the door jamb on the driver's side. Those are areas that you can find. What is the difference between synthetic and conventional oil? Well, typically, without getting into the weeds on this topic, which we very easily could, there's no such thing anymore, at least in the US, of your traditional conventional oil. Everything is somewhat synthetic, meaning it's man-made and it's enhanced to protect the engine more, and it's better for the environment, etc. So the biggest difference that you need to know is, does my car take full synthetic or semi-synthetic. Most vehicles nowadays do still take a semi-synthetic, meaning that it's partially conventional and partially man-made and enhanced. There are some vehicles that do require full synthetic, and if you put a semi-synthetic in that engine, you could ruin that engine because it needs that extra protection, that extra lubrication, the extra tolerance to the heat that could cause problems if you don't put the full synthetic in the vehicle. Your vehicle will tell you when you're looking up what type of oil it takes, if it's full synthetic or a semi-synthetic. There's a couple other ways to tell, why does my oil get dirty so quickly? Oil in a vehicle can get dirty very quickly because inside that engine, there's fires going on, literally fires. The fuel's going into the system, the oil is exposed to that. It's also exposed to the heat from the friction of the engine operating. So because of that heat, because of that combustion, and because of the elements of dirt that are in the environment, it gets dirty fairly quickly. You may not notice it right away when you check the oil, but after 2,000 or 3,000 miles, you may not notice the difference between what is time to be changed and what still may have a couple thousand miles left in the oil change on it. So it gets dirty fairly quick. That doesn't necessarily mean that it needs to be changed. Oil is changed based on time and mileage. Mostly in modern oils, it's mileage. Color doesn't necessarily matter, it's more about the mileage. Can driving short distances affect my oil life? Short or long distances don't necessarily dictate how long the life of the oil is going to last. Definitely more wear and tear when you're driving the stoplight in more city driving, puts more wear and tear on the engine, but not necessarily on the oil. Whether you're driving the highways or you're driving the city streets, the oils should be changed based on mileage. That being said, sometimes people who drive a lot in the city will do less of a service interval, meaning like, let's say that the car can go 5,000 miles. Maybe they change it at 4,000 or 3,000 miles because they do a lot of city driving. That's just cheap insurance. It's not going to necessarily make any difference to any type of a warranty, but it may make the vehicle last a little bit longer just because it's actually getting more oil changes than less, and that's going to give less friction in the engine, which will definitely make that engine last a lot longer. What does the oil change reminder light actually mean? The oil change light reminder, if it's reset when you get an oil change, tells you that that vehicle is ready for an oil change. Now, there's some warnings about this. Number one, a lot of the manufacturers have extended the life of the oil in the vehicle, and in not all climates is that the smartest thing to do. So for example, if you have a vehicle that it says it only change the oil every 10,000 miles. Well, in Arizona, and Phoenix particularly, we have a lot of dust and we have a lot of heat. I wouldn't recommend a vehicle that I just spent $50,000 on waiting 10,000 miles to change that oil. I'd probably go more along the lines of a 7,000 mile oil change. And that warning light on the oil change is set up for 10,000 miles. So it is a good backup plan if you want to do quicker service intervals to make that vehicle last a little bit longer by doing the oil changes at 7,000 miles rather than 10,000 miles, and then you forgot. That's what it's telling you. It's telling you that my oil is ready to be changed. It's not gonna like stop you or anything like that. If the oil change light comes on, you don't need to rush to the repair shop or rush to the dealership. It's just telling you it's time to change the oil. Now, sometimes repair shops will forget to reset that light, and you've gotten your oil change done, and then a month later, that oil change reminder light comes on. Well, that's not telling you anything that the oil needs to be changed. It's just a fact that they forgot to reset the light, and so it needs to be reset. Unfortunately, once it's reset, typically that interval is going to be off a little bit. Hopefully that doesn't happen to you, but nothing to be alarmed about. If the oil change light comes on, you want to check your sticker if you have one to see when the oil change was done. Verify that they did reset the light, and if they didn't, go back to the repair shop that did the oil change and have them reset the light. But there's no warning about the oil change light. It's just telling you that based on the mileage that car is ready to change oil. Now, there are some modern vehicles that actually know when you've changed oil. Through sensors in the vehicle, the oil was changed and it knows that the oil was changed, and so there's no reset. And again, all that's doing is giving you a warning, telling you need to get the oil changed. A lot of those lights are on a display screen, and it won't go away until you change the oil, because it wants to keep in your head that it needs an oil change, and until that service is done, it won't shut off. So again, it's a warning for maintenance. It's not going to necessarily leave you stranded or cause any trouble for you. How can I check my oil level at home? You can check your oil level at home by yourself if your vehicle has a dipstick, meaning the little rod that goes into the engine and gives you an indication of where that oil level is at. This is a dipstick. So on that dipstick, there's going to be usually a couple of dots in there or some sort of an indicator level, and it'll tell you where it's at. If there's no oil on that dipstick, usually it's more than a quart low of oil. Many modern vehicles don't even have dipsticks. They used to have them on everything, for transmissions, for power steering, for engine oil. They used to have dipsticks, and now some vehicles don't have dipsticks, and the only way you can tell an oil level is based on the car's computer, because it's got sensors. What does it mean if my oil looks milky, gritty, or smells like fuel? If your oil looks milky or gritty or smells like fuel, that's typically an indication that there might be a problem inside the engine. So if you go to check your own oil and you see that it looks like a milkshake in there, stop. I wouldn't even drive the vehicle anymore. I would have it towed to a professional and have them do the testing on it to find out what's going on, because that's not normal. There could be some internal damage happening where there's metal circulating inside that engine, and it's causing more and more damage. And if it smells like fuel, then there's something going on with the fuel system, where maybe there's too much fuel being dumped into the system because of a bad fuel injector or something with the fuel system. So if you see any of those indications, it doesn't look either like a clear brown or black when it's ready to be changed, you definitely want to have a professional check that out. Why does my car burn oil, and is that normal? If your car burns oil, typically that will happen over time. As an engine gets older and more miles on it, they will typically start to burn a little bit of oil. Some start burning oil sooner than others. In fact, there are some modern vehicles that with under 100,000 miles on the vehicle, they're burning a little bit of oil every oil change. They might burn a half of a quart of oil between oil changes of 3,000 to 5,000 miles. It's nothing to be totally alarmed about. It's a natural aging process for the engine. It will start burning a little bit of oil. And it depends on if the vehicle's had regular oil changes at the right intervals. It's probably less likely that it's going to burn a lot of oil when it's got higher miles on it. But an engine that not been maintained regularly and maybe has been a little bit abused might burn oil a little bit. Give us a call here at 3A and we can answer any of those questions for you. What should I expect during a professional oil change service? What you should expect during a professional oil change service is not just dumping the oil and replacing the filter. You can get that if you go to a service at a major brand or a quick lube where all they're doing is changing out that fluid and putting on a new filter. A professional oil change, like one at 3A Automotive, includes a full vehicle inspection. So we're going to lift the vehicle up, we're going to test drive the vehicle, we're going to pull the tires off a lot of times and check the brakes. We're going to be inspecting all the hoses, all the belts, all the other fluids in the vehicle. So it's not just the oil, but what does the transmission fluid look like? What does the brake fluid look like? What does the power steering fluid look like? How full is the engine coolant, and what is the condition of that engine coolant? So they're looking for leaks. They're looking for anything that is going to cause an issue between now and the next oil change when they look at the vehicle again. Now, the other thing that you're going to get in a professional oil change, once all of that inspection's done and the new oil and new filters put in, a lot of times what they're going to do is they're going to top off all the other fluids. They're going to if anything's low in the coolant, anything's low in the transmission, anything's low with the power steering, brake fluid. They're going to top all of those fluids off, whether they do that as part of the service or they charge you for the fluids that they add. The point is that they're not going to let that vehicle leave with low fluids. I hope this video has helped answer some of your most common questions about oil changes and just general engine health. If you'd like to schedule an appointment for any advice or any maintenance on your vehicle, please give us a call here at 3A Automotive at 602-997-7978. We're here to make sure your vehicle stays reliable and safe.